All right, so I was on vacation for a couple of days. That's why this video is coming out a little bit later. But when I was gone, Bobby Wagner re-signs with the Seattle Seahawks, which is interesting because it felt like there was a bit of a rift when he had left. I think a lot of people, were kind of in the anti-Pete Carroll camp at that point. And the reality is, if the Seahawks had a bad year last year, that could have done a lot of damage to his legacy, perhaps. But because the Seahawks had a good year, feels like he was proven right in some degree with what Pete Carroll was doing. With the Russell Wilson leaving and maybe him not letting Russ cook and stuff like that. Which again, who knows how much he even had a hand in it. But with the Seahawks' reputation kind of back in full swing, they're able to regain one of their legendary players after a one-year stint in LA. Bobby Wagner has returned to the Seattle Seahawks, and it's just a one-year, $7 million deal. Again, guy's getting older, right? He's going to be 33 next year. It makes sense that teams are going to be a little bit wary of, paying him a long time, even though the Rams just did. We also saw, even though he played well, they're still getting out of that contract because they need cap space. So, for an older player, it makes sense that some teams just are out because they don't need a good older player right now. They need good younger players. That makes sense. But for Bobby Wagner, I do think that he is someone who really just fits this defense well. We already know it's a good fit. It's very similar to what they did with the Rams. So once we get into the film, we can talk about why it is so similar. But the reality is, I think it is a good fit with Bobby Wagner, because of just how he plays, and it's just kind of a match made in heaven that, he's been in basically one system his whole career, and it's a system that fits him really well. So, of course, it kind of just feels like it's obvious, and it's one of those moves where if he had never played for the Seahawks before, we'd all be sitting here saying, oh, wow, what a great fit. That's really smart that they did that. But the fact that he's even played for them before, there's just added value. He doesn't really have to learn a new system, but maybe, he did show some other smaller, nice things that he was able to do when he was with the Rams, so maybe they will just use him a little bit differently with some of the things that they saw there, but as a whole, they don't have to because, again, he's great in the system for the Seahawks, and hey, it'll sell you some season tickets too, which is always a plus if you're an NFL franchise. So it's a fun move. Let's talk about him as a player, though, and does he still have it at 33 years old? First, let's look at this before we get into the film. As you see at the top left-hand corner, PFF ranked Bobby Wagner as the 27th most valuable free agent heading into this offseason. Their projected contract is a one-year, $6.5 million projection, but you look over at the right, you see that he has had some, very good years according to PFF, including being PFF's highest-rated linebacker in 2022. He was also the second highest-rated linebacker in 2020 with a PFF WAR of over half a win each of those years. That's very valuable. And honestly, even 2021, if that's your down season where you're still the 15th highest rated linebacker, you're doing pretty good. So definitely someone who has been adding a lot of value to his team recently. Let's start off with this play and talk about, I think this is a good example showing that one of the many things that Bobby Wagner does. He does a lot very well, but this time it's going to be in the run defense game. You have actually a tight end, Ferguson, who's going to be blocking Wagner on this play, and watch what he's going to do. Watch as he runs up to block Wagner, but Wagner's able to get around it pretty well and even able to help make that tackle. He is definitely someone who can win one-on-one matchups. I don't know if he quite gets the explosive wins in one-on-one matchups that he used to, but again, sometimes it's not necessarily about hitting home runs. Sometimes it's about having a high batting average, and there's no denying he is a high batting average caliber player, in my opinion. Like this play's another example. This time it's going to be in coverage because, again, he's someone who can certainly do it all. It's zone coverage that they are in, and you see the zone that Bobby Wagner is covering. He is the, going to be the white zone. That's where he's covering, and there's a receiver who's running a route that's going to kind of try to get into a gap in coverage a little towards the top of the screen of where Wagner will end up. Watch how when this play begins. You see that right here, there is a window to make this throw, and it's going to come down to, can Wagner close that window quickly enough? As you see, that answer is a resounding yes, and just these little things end up having big impacts. They don't seem like the biggest deals in the world when you watch them on film like this, but they really are. Being able to do this and do it consistently really does just make a huge impact. Like this play's another example where it's going to be a run defense play. You're going to have a double team, and then a double team, it's actually going to be the guard who's going to get up to then block Bobby Wagner after the double team. That's the way this play is supposed to work. But right when this play begins, Wagner, reads it well enough that he kind of sees, okay, while the run was initially going towards the offense's right, which would be towards the left of the screen, seems like Elliott's about to cut back towards the offense's right. Wagner notices this. Watch him be able to move over, and he is able to clog up that gap, along with about 1,000 other Rams able to do that. But still, a very good play from Wagner, and he's a smart player, right? He's constantly in position, and that's obviously, part of that is included in the contract, right? His intelligence, that's a big part of what makes him special. Also, this play, where what's going to happen on this one is it's going to be again, one-on-one matchup. Wagner is blitzing on this play. I always feel like his blitzing ability doesn't get maybe the attention that it deserves. He barely blitzed in Seattle. That's, part of it. But still, it's a one-on-one matchup against a center, and watch what he does. As you see, watch him use his hands to get towards the outside. He squeezes through 2 linemen and eventually gets a quarterback hit, but not before getting rid of the football. So didn't get a sack necessarily, but still a very good play to get the pressure right there. And these are just the kind of things that I think Bobby Wagner is capable of doing. I mean, you look at him, he is a complete linebacker, right? I mean, he can cover well, he can stop the run well, and he can blitz well. On top of it, he makes the team around him better because he is a smart player. He can get other people to know what they're supposed to be doing and make sure they're not out of position as well. So having that kind of asset to your team, there's definitely added value in that beyond just what he's bringing to the football field. And what he's bringing to the football field is pretty good. I mean, one concern that you have to have, I think, is that next year he's going to be 33. I mean, linebackers don't play forever. No position player plays forever. So there's definitely that bit of concern of how much value are you really, how long are you getting Bobby Wagner for? How is he going to even be good next year? Will he fall off a cliff? It does happen with athletes. They don't always have this gradual decline. Sometimes they go from the best in the league to not very good. I mean, sometimes it does happen that way. And so that's obviously an added risk and part of why maybe, that would be a knock against him, I think. But still, as a whole, I think that the reality is you're probably getting a pretty good player with Bobby Wagner. I think that's a fair thing to say. You're probably going to get someone pretty good. At least that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.